In Pakistan's capital, a suicide bomber today killed at least 31 people and injured almost 170 others during Friday prayers in a Shiite Muslim mosque. This is the deadliest attack of its kind in the capital in over a decade, in fact. Images from the site showed bloodied bodies lying on the carpeted mosque floor, surrounded by shards of glass, debris. Panicked worshippers seen in the footage, dozens more were injured, lying in the gardens of the mosque. This is in a semi-urban area on the outskirts of Islamabad as people called for help. In fact, the explosion took place after a suicide bomber detonated himself. Explosives at the main gate of the place of worship during afternoon hours. Police officials saying the attacker was stopped at the gate of the mosque before detonating the bomb. The attack comes during the two-day official visit of the Uzbekistan president, remember. And following the blast, the Islamabad Inspector General of Police declared a city-wide emergency. While rescue and law enforcement teams rushed to the spot amid fears of multiple casualties, the injured have now been shifted to the Pakistan Institute of Medical Sciences and Polyclinic Hospital. Pakistan's Prime Minister has condemned the explosion. The President has expressed deep grief and sorrow over the incident. Shiites, who are in the minority in the predominantly Sunni Muslim nation of 241 million, have been targeted in sectarian violence several times in the past. They have been targeted by Islamic State and the Sunni Islamist group Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. Today's attack comes less than 3 months after a suicide blast outside a district and sessions court building in Islamabad. This was on the 11th of November 2025. 12 people lost their lives, more than 30 were injured because of that blast. And the Jeffrey Epstein case continues to cast a long shadow after a series of emails released by U.S. authorities revealed details about former Prince Andrew's close ties with to Epstein, reportedly. The British Parliament has decided to scrutinize his alleged misuse of royal authority. He was stripped of his royal titles last year after one of Epstein's victims leveled allegations of sexual assault against him. Under immense pressure, the disgraced royal moved out of the Royal Lodge, a 30-room mansion, earlier this week. It is this very house which has become the subject of a controversy. Former Prince Andrew leased this property for a period of 75 years in 2003, reportedly. While he made a one-time payment of $1.3 million under the terms of the agreement, he is believed to have paid no rent in the last 2 decades, reportedly. The UK Parliament's Public Accounts Committee has launched a probe into this matter. The committee's chairman revealed that MPs were concerned whether lease arrangements for Royal Lodge were achieving the best value for money. Royal Lodge is a part of the Windsor estate, whose profits go entirely into the public exchequer, reportedly. He added that any reduced income will be a cost to the taxpayers. And this has brought great scrutiny over the British royal family and its finances. As per the Sovereign Grant Act of 2011, UK government provides annual financial support to the monarch, reportedly, which is equivalent to 12% profits from the Crown estate. While the accounts are audited every year, questions have been raised over an exponential rise in the sovereign grant from $10.7 million to $179.4 million. Now, it's crucial to note here that this funding only covers expenses related to their official duties and the upkeep of properties and staffing. But anti-monarchy campaigners claim that the state funding for the royal household is only a fraction of the real cost to the taxpayers. According to them, $613 million is spent on the royal family. Now, with the inquiry on to kickstart later this year, royal finances will finally be discussed threadbare in the British Parliament. Global markets may be rebounding today, but do not mistake this bounce for confidence. Behind the recovery, investors remain worried, anxious, on edge, amid the mounting fears over AI and the massive amounts of money being poured into it. After days of heavy selling in technology stocks, buyers stepped in, US stock futures erased early losses, S&P 500 contracts climbed 0.5%, Nasdaq futures rose around 0.6%. Bitcoin also, in fact, bounced back, rising nearly 5%. After slipping to its lowest level since October 2024, gold and silver found support. On the surface, it looked like calm returning to the markets. But there is still uncertainty because this rebound is not about optimism. It's about investors basically asking one question: has the sell-off gone way too far? Is something deeper breaking here? You see, the turbulence started after fresh concerns emerged about artificial intelligence, real concerns, literally about how much it's costing. Amazon's shares, in fact, fell more than 8% after announcing plans to spend nearly $200 billion this year on AI infrastructure, spending that is rising faster than its cloud revenues, by the way. And Amazon is not alone. 4 major tech firms are now expected to invest around $650 billion in data centers, chips, AI systems this year. And the scale of spending has rattled investors. Many fear companies are racing ahead without clear returns. At the same time, new AI models from startups like Anthropic are threatening to disrupt entire software industries, raising questions about which businesses survive and which don't. And as a result, a sharp sell-off in the market happened, followed by a cautious rebound. Across Wall Street, investors are now trying to separate genuine long-term winners from overvalued hype, just to put this simply. This is no longer just about tech. It's about the entire economic outlook. Because just have a look at the bond markets, for example. Flashing warning signs. US Treasury yields fell, especially at the short end. The dollar also weakened slightly. Investors are now betting that interest rate cuts could return later this year. And as per strategists, there is a new risk. Strong economic growth, but also weakening employment, partly driven by AI replacing jobs. A scenario that could also force central banks to rethink policy. So a lot of ramifications here. Meanwhile, the shockwaves are spreading fast globally. In Asia, tech stocks whipsawed. South Korea's index fell more than 5% at one point before recovering some ground. Key suppliers to the AI boom led the swings. Taiwan and Hong Kong tech stocks also coming under pressure. Analysts are saying Asia remains highly exposed to the shifts in AI sentiment because chip makers sit at the heart of the global infrastructure spending. Despite the volatility, South Korea's market is still up sharply this year. But then investors are also nervous. After such rapid gains, even small doubts trigger big moves after all. In Europe, markets also tried to stabilize. Frankfurt and London gained. Paris, meanwhile, lagged behind. Dragged down by Stellantis, which plunged 25% after warning of massive write-downs, linked to misjudging the electric vehicle transition. The company's shares are now down around 80% over 2 years. A reminder that tech disruption is hitting traditional industries as well. And Bitcoin, which had fallen sharply, also attempted a recovery, but it remains far below its recent highs, showing basically that even digital assets are not immune to risk-off moods. So what does all of this really tell us? Are tech giants spending too much, too fast? Will AI deliver profits or will it disappoint? And are the markets even prepared for the social and economic impact of automation? This has been a rather brutal week for tech, and the nerves are far from settled at this point. But investors also remain concerned because in the race for AI, no one knows yet who will win and who will end up paying the price. Music history is heading to the auction block as iconic instruments linked to Kurt Cobain and the Beatles go under the hammer. These instruments offering fans a rare chance to own a piece of rock legend. More details in our next report.
I'm standing in front of a group of Beatles instruments, and actually I think it's fair to say that this collection of Beatles instruments, some of which aren't here as well because we couldn't bring them to Los Angeles, is the most important assembled Beatles collection for somebody who wasn't a member of the band.
25 years ago, the US launched a war on terror following the 9/11 terror attack. And while it succeeded in killing the Al-Qaeda founder Osama bin Laden and his number two, Ayman al-Zawahiri, the threat of terrorism remains as potent as ever, not just from the Al-Qaeda, but also groups like ISIS and Al-Shabaab. As per the UN Security Council's monitoring team, Al-Qaeda and its affiliates have 50 times more recruits than what they had at the time of 9/11. 50 times more. The latest data gathered via spy agencies showing that there are 25,000 Al-Qaeda fighters across the world at present, in contrast to the 500 members it had in 2001. That is what has emerged. The UN warned that terror groups have become more technologically savvy and regularly post videos on how to create armed drones and liquid explosives, thereby bolstering their threat. Let's just break this down further for you, bit by bit. When it comes to the Al-Qaeda specifically, the outfit continues to have a transnational presence. For instance, AQIM is an extremely active affiliate of the Al-Qaeda in Africa. It has around 200 fighters across southern Algeria, western Tunisia, southwestern Libya. And in case of Syria, Al-Qaeda remains a key player. For instance, concerns have been raised over the close ties which some of the new inductees in the country's army share with the terror outfit. Also, its proxy is believed to have nearly 2,000 fighters in its ranks. In fact, AQAP maintaining 2,000 to 3,000 fighters in Yemen and has conducted over 30 attacks in 2025 alone. Another Al-Qaeda affiliate, JNIM, it's a potent force in Africa. It has conducted numerous complex attacks with drones and IEDs against the security forces and civilians across Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. This terror outfit's presence in Afghanistan is largely limited to fighters of Arab origin who fought alongside the Taliban in the past. And they are believed to be present in 6 provinces, including Ghazni and Kandahar. Now, let's just turn our attention towards ISIS. It is most active in Iraq and Syria with an estimated strength of 1,500 to 3,000 fighters. 1,500 to 3,000 fighters. Moreover, there are nearly 7,000 incarcerated ISIS members in Syria who are being transferred to Iraq. Now, the group has a presence in Nigeria as well with its affiliates, Islamic State in Greater Sahara and the Lokarwa Group, which was targeted by US strikes in December last year. The neighboring country of Niger has the presence of fighters of Islamic State West Africa province, another ISIS affiliate. Besides this terror outfit also has a foothold in Libya and Somalia. One of the main current threats, though, is emerging from an ISIS offshoot called Islamic State Khorasan Province, or ISKP, based in Afghanistan and Pakistan. In 2025, two key leaders of ISKP, we're talking about Mohammad Sharifullah, the alleged mastermind of the 2021 bombing that killed 13 US troops, and its spokesperson, Sultan Aziz, were arrested. In fact, the tentacles of ISIS have spread even to the Philippines, where the Islamic State Southeast Asia Division has a marginal presence. On the other hand, Al-Shabaab is a big factor in Somalia, as it reportedly controls 30% of the country's territory. The outfit has intensified its operations in southern and central Somalia and even temporarily captured towns and supply routes leading into the capital city, Mogadishu. The number of Al-Shabaab fighters, in fact, is estimated to be 18,000. Now, let's just shift our attention to the question of how serious the world really is about these threats. Over the last few months, in fact, alleged ISIS operatives have been taken into custody across multiple paths, including Ethiopia, the US, France, even India. Besides this, Mehmet Goren, a Turkish national and a senior ISIS leader, was arrested from the Afghanistan-Pakistan border. He had been tasked with organizing suicide attacks, targeting civilians in Europe, Turkey, Afghanistan, Pakistan. However, the world is going through a rather tumultuous phase, of course. Wars have been raging. There is growing uncertainty, to say the least, as unity between global powers remains elusive. It's also raising a serious question. Is battling terrorism no longer a top priority? It's quite clear from the past, countries can ignore terrorism, but solely at their own peril. To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.